actually sleeping right now, so it's just me today. But I wanted to do kind of a pre-surgery check-in since we are a couple weeks out from the cleft palate repair. And I wanted to kind of check in with you guys and let you know how I'm doing and kind of the things I'm thinking about and how I'm planning and that kind of thing. So we had our pre-op appointment today, and as usual, Dan and I brought like 2 pages worth of questions just to make sure that we didn't miss anything. They were great and also gave us some handouts that actually answered most of the questions that we had come up with. So I feel like we got the good information that we needed. I'm not going to go too much in depth of the information they gave us just because it can vary a lot from surgeon to surgeon, and I don't want to also word vomit a bunch of information that may not be applicable to your case. So I will talk more in generals. If you have like specific questions, you can feel free to leave them below, and I can let you know how we've been instructed in things and answer the best I can. But like I said, I'm going to try to keep the details to a minimum. So where to start? Let's start with just the basics of what the cleft palate repair is and what a cleft palate is really fast. And then maybe that will provide more context for kind of how I'm doing with processing the upcoming surgery. So a cleft palate is a big hole basically in the palate of your mouth, which is the roof of your mouth essentially. You could have it in the hard part of the roof of your mouth or the soft part. Ava's is just on the soft palate. And obviously, with it being so open, it can go all the way up to the nasal passageway, right? There's nothing to block there. That can impact feeding and speech. So it needs to be surgically closed. What they do is they take basically pieces of skin from inside Ava's mouth and sew it together to form a new palate. And how that's been described to us is kind of like putting 2 pieces of tissue paper on top of each other and let it kind of dangle there for a while until it heals. And so it's pretty precarious, it's very sensitive, it's very, we cannot let her put anything in her mouth to risk bumping it, because if she bumps it and there's a problem and she hits it the wrong way, then she would need to do an additional full palate repair, which we really don't want because the surgery can be pretty intense. One of the tidbits they did say to us is that, like, because there's stitches in there, as she's healing, it's like, you know the feeling when you have like a hair in your mouth and you can't get it out and it's really, really annoying? That's in addition to the pain, one of the things that's hard about this. Ava is almost a year old. She'll have it done right before her first birthday. And so I can talk and try to explain it to her, but you know, when you're a year old, you don't really understand why your throat hurts or why it feels different or even why you have to have the surgery. The way I handle things with Ava, especially medically or surgery, or even just our daily routine, is I really talk her through like, hey, this is how the day's gonna go, this is what's gonna happen, this might hurt a lot, it will be okay, I'll be there with you. And I try to do that because even if she can't fully understand, I think kids are smarter than we give them credit for, and I think there's enough pieces of that where it helps her get through her day. So the surgery itself is 2.5, 3 hours. We will be able to hold her right after surgery, but she will have to have these things called no-nos, which are basically like a foam Velcro cast on both of her arms so that she can't bring her fingers to her mouth. Anybody who's had a baby, been around a baby, you know that babies self-soothe by putting things in their mouth. You know that if they are teething, they want to put things in their mouth. And what we were told is that for 3 weeks, Ava is going to need to keep these no-nos on. For those of you who've had the surgery before, I know, again, some surgeons handle this differently, where sometimes they say you can give breaks, take the no-nos off, put them back on, that kind of thing. Our surgeon has recommended that we actually try to keep them on as much as possible those whole 3 weeks. One, because it's like having a cast. It's really annoying at first, but then you get used to it. If we keep giving her breaks, then she never really gets used to it, or she has to continually get reused to it every time you put it back on, and then she's gonna be more fussy and cranky about it. So we're gonna be trying for 3 weeks to have my little Peanut in these like big arm slings, and that I think is gonna be one of the many not fun parts about this. The actual time in hospital, just for reference, is probably about, assuming everything goes well, 1 to 2 nights. So not as long as as putting in the tongue lip adhesion, but still it depends on how she does afterwards. Like, she needs to be able to eat. She needs to be able to have the pain management plan in place and working. So those are the variables we'll be looking for. Like I said, it could be 1, 2 nights. It could be, 5, 6 nights, worst case scenario. So that's kind of what we're looking at and what we're facing. So I guess the next part of this is how I'm doing. It's like anything else, I think, where some days I think I'm doing really, really well, and then some days, like, it's really, really overwhelming. And like, if I let myself think about it too much, like, I get kind of choked up, as kind of I am feeling right now. I mean, it is hard for any parent to see their kid hurting. And you would think, because we've had surgeries with Ava and we've been through it, we kind of know what to expect, it might get a little easier. I think some of the logistics might be a little easier, and there are pieces that might be easier. But even in talking to the surgeon today, they wanted to make really, really clear that the cleft palate repair is a whole new ball game. And again, it's, if I think about it too much, like, that's really scary. Not even necessarily because I think, like, catastrophes, like, she might not make it through, or or something might go wrong in surgery. I'm not even thinking like that. I'm just realistically trying to imagine what it looks like to have a baby that is in pain, pretty severe pain for the first 48 hours, and then in recovery for 2 to 3 weeks. Like, that's a pretty good chunk of time. And it is, like I said, really overwhelming. Like always, it helps me to have a plan, to kind of like plan for the worst and hope for the best. So I now have some like to-do lists that I want, things that I want to do in preparation. So we're gonna have to go through all of her toys and kind of pack up all of the small things, or things that are like wooden, and basically a lot of the things that she uses for teething right now. Anything that she might put in her mouth and potentially hurt the repaired palate, we need to box up and put away. So we need to kind of whittle down our toy selection, and so we have lots of soft toys for her. The hospital will provide the no-nos, but if we want a backup pair, or if we want a pair that has more mesh instead of just like a full fabric one, as like it is really hot where I live, so that might be a good idea to have one that's, especially because she's in them for 3 weeks, to have a backup pair. Other little things like they talked about sample activities that we could do in those 3 weeks that might help distract her. Simple things that we do kind of with her anyway, like taking a walk, bubbles. Bubbles are a good distractor, so I might go out and like get a bubble gun or something. Like, again, just trying to be prepared. On the way home, I definitely was getting kind of choked up. because I am worried, like how I'm gonna do, how Ava's gonna do, like how we as a family are gonna do, coping with that kind of pain. If you've been through a cleft palate repair and you have any like advice of things that would help soothe the baby or distract the baby or help get us through that 3-week period, I'd really, really appreciate it. I feel like I have a fairly good handle on the logistical stuff, like when she can eat from liquids to purees to, solids again. I have the logistics down of like when we have to be to the hospital, how long the surgery, like those details I have, but the unknowns of like how that's going to affect her behavior, how she's going to handle the pain, like those things we're not going to know until we're actually going through it. Other things that are hard about this a little bit for me are things, again, it's the unknown stuff that's always really scary, but like little things too, like, so when we speak, our voice and how the vibrations resonate and create sound and create how we sound is really, really influenced by your ear, nose, and throat, and your bone structure. Everything affects how you sound. And so I'm a little overwhelmed with the idea that Ava's voice might change. Like, and again, like for my last vlog, I know I mentioned, like, in the face of something really big and overwhelming, sometimes it's like the little stuff that is hard to accept or deal with or kind of think about. And so like little things like that my baby might sound completely different and might not sound like how I know my baby anymore. Like I feel kind of sad about that. Like I have to mourn that piece of this. And like the big stuff, of course I don't want to see her in pain. I don't want to have to hold her for hours as she's crying because she hurts. Like, no parent wants that. And I feel like these vlogs, you're just watching me process through some of this, so I apologize about kind of the back and forth, but like, I know this is good for her. I know that this is going to be so good long term for her. Like, she's going to be able to create words and sounds the way you and I can. She's going to be able to use a straw, which sounds so basic, but it's like one of those things you don't think about. Like, watching little kids use straws right now is kind of like awe-inspiring to me because my baby can't. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna open up a huge world for her, and that part I'm really excited about. This section of time that's going to be really, really hard to get to that good part, I'm obviously not super excited about. But I still have a couple weeks to kind of process and move through this. But I wanted to talk to you guys and like be as honest as I could about it, because I know that other people go through this, and I think it is really, really helpful to hear somebody else's story because you feel less alone. On that note, if you have been through this and can give me any tips, I would love to hear your tips. Words of encouragement are always accepted and appreciated. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna be fine. Again, I just getting through this hard bit, right? So, as I'm trying to convince myself, obviously. Thanks for listening. I hope some of that was informative. I hope some of that was helpful. If you are in a similar spot as me, I hope that you feel a little less alone. Feel free to message me if you'd like. I'm happy to lend a listening ear or just be like, I know this sucks with you. So I hope you have a good day, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.